Right. Today we are discussing about business analyst role in reference to the technical perspective. Because as we all know, like whenever we are working on the business analyst, irrespective of the technology as well as the domain we are working nowadays, it's always important nowadays to have a knowledge over the technology, right? So there are different roles nowadays we see in the job market as follows. Like for some job profiles like technical business analyst, this is how generally it is appearing nowadays. And at the same time, there will be some job profiles like business systems analyst, etc. Right. So this is how generally the job profiles nowadays we see in the market. So roles and responsibilities of a BA, what kind of skill set we need to acquire in a way that you guys know that well, right? So because being a BA, we need to understand the requirements of the customer and providing necessary solutions is what generally a business analyst do. So I'm going to explain you about the main components, what a business analyst has to be performed. Then I will get into how different the technical business analyst role in the industry by considering the present situation is concerned, right? So main components of business analyst role or activities I can write down of a business analyst role as follows. The first is understanding the business situation. Next, understanding the business problem or problems. Next, understanding the business objectives, need, goals, scope of the project, right, etc. So these are the major areas. Next, we need to understand two different things. Sometimes when we are working on migration projects or upgrading to the next level, right? So if that was the case, we need to understand the existing system, which is called generally, we call it as is. So followed by this, we need to understand the proposed system. What are we proposing for the customer? This is what generally we call it as to be. So whatever the identification between, whatever the difference we have identified between as is and to be is called gap analysis. At the same time, we do the feasibility study as well, because again, this feasibility study will be categorized into different parts. So one is about financial feasibility. There are some processes we follow to perform this, right? So that's a detailed part, right? So I think people who are already working as a business analyst knows that, right? So that is different, right? So financial feasibility, technical feasibility, operational feasibility, right? So regulatory feasibility, right? So all these things we have to do. At the same time, we need to understand the root cause analysis, because whenever we are trying to understand about existing system, proposed system, root cause analysis, there are different techniques we use for root cause analysis. This is all something we do majorly, point number one. So after that, whatever the solution was identified, normally this solution we identified is what a business solution, okay, normally, right? So after that, translating business solution to a technical solution. Okay. with the help of technical team. Right? So I think business analyst team, right? So we need to discuss with, development team, right? So we need to discuss with architects, project management team, user interface designers, right? So interacting with this testing team, right? So technical solution we have to develop. So again, technical feasibility, everything come into picture over there, right? So with the help of technical team. Next, communicating requirements uh, in a form of preparing some documents like BRD, SRS, functional requirements document, non-functional requirement document, etc. Next, visualizing the process. I mean, preparing some UML diagrams. Okay. Next, wireframes. Next, mockups. At the same time, flow charts, right? So business process diagrams, right? So this is all something, uh, hmm, business process diagrams. These are all something comes under the visualization process, means whatever the visualization process we want to do, this is all something comes under visualization process. So when we follow agile environment, apart from the traditional practices of application development, in spite of that, we write epics, we write user stories. Okay, we write user stories. At the same time, we create and maintain product backlog. Right, so all these things, etc., using different tools like Jira, etc. Right, so these are all something being a BA we do. Right, so this is nothing to do with any domain. Of course, domain expertise is something added on, but regular BA activities, whatever we do, is something relating to that. So the kind of techniques we use, at the same time, the kind of chat sessions, right? So all these things are comes under BA. Now, so when we talk about the role of a technical business analyst, means what kind of technical business analyst role one should be acquired with, and what kind of technical knowledge a person has to acquire, right? So that's what I'm going to discuss now. So as I mentioned you, if you want to become a technical business analyst or a business systems analyst, whatever the roles, whatever the activities as a business analyst we need to be performed based on the knowledge areas which was prescribed by ABA, all that. So this is all something common. Okay, end of the day, that we should have an idea over that. That is an end of the day, being a business analyst role, that is something essentially important for anyone to understand it. That is required. Now, if we want to become a technical business analyst, or if you want to acquire some technical knowledge from the context of business analyst, there are some technologies which we have to be learned with. The first one is called SQL, because SQL is nothing but structured query language, which will be used to extract the data from the database. Okay, from the database. So for this, it's always important to write queries. Okay, right? So it is always important to write queries and all. So this is where generally SQL come into picture. This is what something we must be good with. Point number one. I don't say, and I don't prefer you to learn the complete SQL part. That's not something essentially required. So basics and elements of SQL, right? So what are the commands we have? Queries to write queries. Insert, update, delete, edit, right? So queries and all everything is what something we have to be learn. This is point number one. Second, for data visualization purpose. So for data visualization purpose, because if we want to create any dashboards, etc., so for that we required a Tableau or Power BI. So this is all to prepare some dashboards. Okay, this is all to prepare dashboards, right? So this is also nowadays we require. This is point number two. Point number three, knowing about the types of applications and frameworks used in IT applications. Okay, this is also you need to learn. You need to have an idea, because I don't say hands-on experience, but what are the different types of applications, like web application, client server, it's enterprise applications, cloud applications, right? So what are the different frameworks will be used in it? So that sort of understanding is required. Next, we must be knowing about what are the different types of architectures will be there in the application, because either it can be a functional roadmap or it can be a technical roadmap. So types of architecture, something like business architecture, application systems, data, enterprise architecture, level, solution architecture, overall idea. Right? So I'm not saying that you need to do a solution architecture on that. Right? I don't say that, but because when we are interacting with stakeholders like technical people, so the jargons and terminologies is something we have to be good with. This is where generally types of architectures, all these will be used here, right? So this is where types of architectures and all everything is required. This is another element we have to be good with. Next, we must be knowing about learning the file formats, right? So what are the different file formats we want, right? So we need to learn the file format, something like XML, right? So understanding over the JSON part. Okay, this is also one of the key and prominent element. Next, here I can write you layers of application, because there are different layers of application we have. So a project or an application that also required. Next, learning the file formats like XML, JSON, all these things required. Next, some people in some organizations, because these are the points, whatever the points I'm mentioning now onwards, these points, some organizations require you to have a knowledge, but I don't say that every organization may not be required, depends on the profile to profile, that will be varied. So one is about API, because which stands for application programming interface. Because generally to application programming interface, nothing but if you want to communicate between two different applications, right? So two different applications and all, there is some API we have to create. Either it can be SOAP API or RESTful API, right? So etc. Right? Different. Some people go for SOAP API, some people go for RESTful. Right? So that application programming interface is also required. Next, to have a knowledge over microservices is also required. Overall understanding over microservices, because earlier applications were completely monolithic applications, where the applications were tightly coupled, right? What are the components we are developing? All these were tightly coupled. So the disadvantage is that if you want to make any changes in the existing application, there will be a difficulty, right? So making some changes out of that, that is something difficult. Earlier it was, right? So again, we have to perform the testing right from the scratch, right? That's how the situation earlier was. So the reason why from there, from monolithic, now we are migrated and we have moved into the microservices architecture, where whatever the components of application development we develop, for every component, there will be a microservices will be prepared by the technical team. So if there are any changes to be made to the particular component, it is confined only to that, so that the application won't disturb because of it. So this is where generally concept of microservices. So understanding about microservices followed by the architecture and all everything is also one of the key element, one we have to be known with. Next, ETL process, because when there is any migration projects, right? For example, whenever we are working on the migration projects, right? So ETL process is something we have to be known with, right? So ETL process, wherein useful uh, when we are working on migration projects. Then from old traditional legacy systems to the new application when we are migrating. ETL process is something we have to be known with. So this is also one of the key and prominent element which people expects nowadays. So these are the skill sets which being a BA you have to be good with. Means apart from the regular skill sets of BA, which I have explained you prior on a high level note, because people who are working for a business analyst will get an idea, right? So what are the roles and responsibilities? They'll have an idea. But people who are newly entering into business analyst, what kind of skill sets and all everything, there are a lot of videos I have posted in my channel in reference to the business analyst activities, all that, so that you can go through that. I think if you learn, then it's fine. But technically, means if you want to learn technology, right? So if you want to become a technical business analyst or any job opportunities we come across in nowadays in the industry, right? So because technical as well as functional as well as technical business analyst roles for now, it is transforming, because earlier business analyst roles are confined only to the functional skills. That's how earlier was. Now also we have functional skills like, so for example, domain business analysts like healthcare, right? So at the same time, investment banking, payments, right? So e-commerce, it is there nowadays, but still there were some profiles where you can see technical business analyst, business systems analyst. That's how it was happening. So this sort of understanding is required. So this is one of the key intent. Next one is about BPM process, right? So business process management, right? Of course, I don't say that there are a lot of tools are there like Pega, Appian, right? So Bonito Soft, right? So there are a lot of tools are there for BPM. I don't say that you need to learn all these tools, because practically individual learning all these uh, in a shorter time, right? So it is not something possible, right? I can say, right? So because people will be for different professional experiences. So it's not possible. But understanding about the business process management, BPM process is also one of the key element one has to be good with. Next, SDLC process, because SDLC process, if you have an idea, okay, but you need to have a knowledge over SDLC process, followed by the models of SDLC, something like waterfall model, V model, agile. Again, in agile, some people may ask for Kanban, some people may ask for Scrum, right? So if you're there, because the Scrum process is different, Kanban process is different. But of course, majority people use a Scrum and some people use a Kanban even. That is also one of the key element. So these are the different STLC models and stages we must be good with. So these are the major skill sets if we want to become a business analyst, especially if you want to learn any technical skills and all everything, this is required. Apart from that, apart from these points, whichever I was mentioned here, apart from this, if you are learning some programming skills, okay, something like Java or Python, right? So it's an advantage, right? Underline this point. This is advantage, right? So I'm just mentioning it as optional, because this is not something mandatory for all the projects, because some people will ask, right? So do you have any programming skills experience or not? I don't say that you need to write program lines and lines of code. I don't say, but jack of all trades is necessary, important in present conditions. It was not like earlier. So because customer expectations were different now, right? So customer is expecting multiple skill sets by any person. So acquiring knowledge and sustaining in the market is not that easy. right? So end of the day, we have to learn ourselves and we need to upgrade ourselves in regular intervals. That is the only way we will be staying in the market in longer. That's the only way, right? So there is no other way. We have to upgrade ourselves according to the industry. As of now, there may be some other technical skill sets which may require in industry, which because end of the day, which we don't know, right? So because transformation going on. Now slowly AI, right? So artificial intelligence is also coming, even data analysis, data management, right? So these are all also coming nowadays. So this is a continuous process. Learning is a continuous process. I don't say that this is only the thing, but as of now, by understanding my experience, by keeping my experience into consideration, whatever I have seen closely in the industry perspective, these are the technical business analyst skills which you have to be good with. Now, when it comes to the programming skill sets, as I mentioned you, Java is something uh, for normally for web applications, client server enterprise applications, Java organizations uses. If they're working on more into data management and data analysis background, related projects are there in the industry, irrespective of the industry they belongs to, they go for Python. Okay, any one I'd say. I don't say that both are not required. So any one basics of Java, basics of Python, if you learn that is enough, right? So basics, I'm saying only the basics of it, so that at least you should understand abstractions, classes, functions, objects, right? So instances, right? So at least the jargons and terminologies, programming basics, always helpful, right? So because always helpful for us. So this is where generally the technical business analyst skills we have to be acquired with. So as I see, because you guys are already the business analyst professionals, already working for last couple of years in the industry. Now, what is that are we learning in our course now, right? So what is that what is that are you guys are learning from now onwards, right? So in reference to the technical business analyst course itself is concerned, these are the areas where you will be learning. Of course, I starts with SDLC and all everything first, because this part we have to cover first, right? So after that, slowly we'll get into the next level, right? So we'll be learning about the types of applications. This is the hierarchical process. Let me put you this in a hierarchical manner. Mostly this is how the hierarchy is, okay? Mostly. This is the hierarchical process. So this is the hierarchical process which normally I cover, right? So this is what generally the technical business analysis you will be learning from the day one, right? So this is how generally I'm going to conduct this. And to cover this, usually if you want to learn about the technical business analyst as per the skill sets as well as the topics which I was mentioned over here. So this will be taken somewhere around 20 hours of training is required for you to learn all this. So hours I'll say, because some people you may, because of course we are taking a regular session now, right? So you guys were learning 1 hour session per day, but there may be some people who wants to complete this as it is. So I always say that it will be taken 20 hours for you to complete these things. But make sure if you, because anyway, you guys were business analyst professionals only, but because there were some people I could see in this, at least 2 to 3 people I see, because 2 to 3 people, I think, as far as my introduction is concerned, 2 3 people were already a regular this thing, right? So uh, some people are not so not into complete BA. So it's always advisable to have a basic understanding over BA skill sets, and detailed part of BA functional related is essentially required. So if you learn, it will be more useful to you. Otherwise, you have to learn business analyst, then technical BA will be useful. Otherwise, you can enroll for both, right? So you can attend for functional BA as separate, technical BA as separate, right? So both, if you learn, that is the choice of the people who are attending, right? So this is all about this, and from tomorrow onwards, we'll be discussing about the models of SDLC, followed by the types of application frameworks, right? So all these things we'll be discussing from tomorrow onwards.